Good morning on this Sunday morning. This Shabbat, when I came to Shul, many in the community were very distraught. Of course, the first reason they were distraught was the terrible, tragic accident where 3 hostages were killed by the IDF, thinking that they were terrorists, and understanding the nuances of how hard it is to fight a war against people that dress like civilians and fake behind babies, and the minute, split second you have to make that decision. But besides that, of course, the worry was about the new Harris-Harvard poll, with the shocking news that 51% of Americans between 18 and 24% believe that Israel should cease to exist and the entire area should be given over to Hamas. The entire area. Imagine 51% of those people. And not just that, but 71% of Americans in that young age believe that Hamas was correct in what they did October 7th, butchering and killing 1,200 innocent civilians, burning them at stake alive. And of course it worries everyone, because although the majority of Americans support Israel and support their right to exist, of course, the 18 and 24 is our future. And the question is, what are we doing about our future? How will we be able to continue as not just Israel, but as a democracy in America, when 71% of 18 to 24 say that Jews should be viewed as oppressors? It's a painful discussion we have to have. And it might be a wake-up call for all of us that for the past 20 or 30 years, we have been ignoring what's been happening on our Ivy Leagues, the DEI, diversity, inclusion, all that nonsense, which instead of really including people, has been excluding people and separating Americans more than we've ever been. And many are calling, of course, for DEI to cease to exist and for us to reconsider how we teach our youth and what does it mean to go to an Ivy League. But I want to tell you something else and connect it to this week's Torah portion. Because in this week's Torah portion, we read about the epic confrontation between Judah and Joseph. Last week's Torah portion ends how Benjamin was supposed to go down to Joseph. Joseph refused to let his brother Simon out of prison unless Benjamin came. And Jacob didn't want to let Benjamin go because Joseph already died. And he only had one more son from Rachel, and he cherished him, and it was his baby. But with no choice and starvation, he let him go. And when they came, Joseph planted his goblet into Benjamin's backpack. And as they left the city, they were caught and searched and brought back. And he says, I'm taking Benjamin as a prisoner because he's a thief. And here comes the moment when Judah, and this was the test that Joseph made, that Judah should have to stand and say, I'm standing in the place of Benjamin. Judah said, I'll be a prisoner, but Benjamin has to go back home. And this confirmed to Joseph that the brothers repented from what happened 22 years earlier, because if they were ready to give up their freedom for Benjamin, it's the opposite of what they did to Joseph so many years earlier. And there's a verse there that says, Judah pleads with his brother Joseph, and he says, how can I go to my father? The lad is not with me. And their soul is bound one with another. And the simple term is, he's crying for Benjamin. How can I come back and face my father, the old man who already lost a son and is under so much trauma that his other son from Rachel's gone? But I want to tell you something that happened in the throes right after the Holocaust. After 6 million of our people died, and there was a big discussion in the Jewish world, in America. What should we do? Should we ghetto up and left with Judaism, the Jews that are connected to their Judaism, and forget about everyone else? And the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, blessed memory, made this remarkable revolution of outreach and impacting every Jew, no matter how lost they are to Judaism, to bring them back into the fold and not to forget them. And others said, what are we wasting our time? Just focus on those we still have, because we live in America, or else we'll lose everyone. And the Rebbe quoted this verse, and the Rebbe said, Eich el Avi, How could an observant Jew go to God every day, 3 times a day, and pray? And you're forgetting about the youth. You're giving up on the youth. They're God's children too. The Rebbe said we can never forget about the young generation. We have no future without them. And we need to work extra hard against all odds. And in the last 75 years, the revolution the Rebbe made, today there's 5,000 Chabad centers in every crevice, in every corner of the world. Think about this past Hanukkah and Jewish pride since October 7th and where the world would be without Chabad, without the Rebbe's vision. And this was the Rebbe at a time when it was dark and the voices were screaming against it. And in a certain sense, the same is true today. Listen, at the end of the day, we can't forget about that 18 to 24 demographic. We have been woken up in ways that we can never imagine to what they're being fed at these universities, to these DEIs, to all this idea of oppressors and oppressed, and the way these young people are being brainwashed to view the world. And we must wake up. How do we wake up? By engaging. First of all, by fighting. By stopping to support places that don't protect the Jews against anti-Semitism, that don't teach people about real inclusion. But we also have to engage these places and stay engaged and speak to people and make courses and make classes and speak to our politicians and support people that are sane, that are middle of the road, that are not extreme. We can never, how could we have a conscience to go up and to think about our future without the youth? There is no future. And it's depressing and it's scary and it's challenging. But don't fall into the trap of ignoring it and giving up on them. Because all is not lost. Because people grow up, they get a little older and smarter. And if you work hard and you're out there and you're engaging and you're fighting for what you believe, truth will always prevail. And that's what we learn from Judah in this week's Torah portion. And I plead with each and every one of you and us that we should engage and we should be strong and we should be out there and we should speak to our children and we shouldn't run away from the tough issues, because only through doing that will we overcome, and we will overcome. God bless you. Have a great day. And don't let these polls make you despondent. Let it give you a fire in your belly to fight for truth, to fight for Israel, to fight for moral clarity, to fight for our country, to fight for the future of the greatest country in the world, the USA. Where is the world going to be without a youth in the USA that supports democracy, that supports freedom, that supports people who want to live in peace, that supports the greatest country of innovation like Israel? Just today, 65 of the greatest entrepreneurs and CEOs of tech companies that flew to Israel to show their support. It's not lost. We have so much within our ability to make change, but the change is not going to happen if we don't speak up. The change is not going to happen if we're not vocal. The change is not going to happen if we don't have the courage to be like Judah and confront Joseph and say, I will not go without the lad. I will not give up on the future of this country, of Israel, and of the free world. God bless you and have a great day.